Hi, guys. My name is Amena Thornton, and you are listening to the One Up podcast. This series is called Message of Hope, Stories of Struggle to Success. Today, we are welcoming on Chris Good as our guest today. And just so you know, this is episode number 24. So you can see this on the YouTube once it gets put out there. And to get to the YouTube channel, that would be amena.media in your web browser. Amena, that's AMENA.media to get to the YouTube channel. So Chris has a lot of ups and downs in his life, looking over some key points that we're going to cover today. And I don't know where you want to start, Chris, because you've got a lot of hurdles that you had to go through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not as gloomy as like I'm not in a gloomy place. I don't want anybody to think that. I don't want to give anybody the impression that I've gone through some very challenging things in my past, and they've certainly shaped me into the man that I now am, and I'm grateful for that. But it's and of course there's still things that I work on and stuff, and it's sometimes you get the residue of those experiences, especially with just that post-traumatic experience and learning to, I like to use the word alchemize into something that's much more healthier and better for you.
Did you say optimize?
Alchemize. So it's that whole idea of the alchemist of turning something into gold, and so it's like transforming past pain into present power.
Oh yeah, definitely. And just so you guys know, I know Chris through my Facebook, and he is totally not gloomy. He does a lot of these amazing lives, and so he has definitely turned like all his pain into helping others, and we're going to be talking about that as well today. So Chris, how do you want to talk about what you've gone through? How do you want to start? I know your mom had substance abuse,
Mm-hmm.
and you had to live through that, and you had to go to foster care. Is that correct?
Yes, I had to go through foster care. Maybe I guess the best place to start off is really my earlier years, explaining the context of how this all sort of, it's going to be a weird word to use, but like unfolded or blossomed into what it is today. So I grew up in it was a pretty like decent household. Like at least that's the way it appeared from the outside looking in initially. So my dad was 57 when he had me. My mom was like 37, so 20 years younger.
Okay.
And
which I just like to put out there, it's really not uncommon. And this is opposite too. Like there is women that date younger men also. So, total, if you guys want to do what you want to do, that's total, it's your life. It's your life.
Yeah.
So don't let age be a factor.
Yeah. So it was like there was that difference there. Came in like my family, I would say at that time was like middle upper class. So my dad being as old as he was had established himself, and he had he's doing pretty well. We lived in a nice townhouse in Germantown, Maryland. So everything was fine, but what was just unbeknownst to my dad was the fact that my mom had this substance abuse issue. And thankfully, at least as far as I know, I feel perfectly fine. She didn't have any issues using any like drugs while I was, going through that process.
And that's good. So, true.
Yeah.
It's something, you would have to think about. Of course, if you're the one in the relationship, like, oh my God, how's this affecting, our child, and what will we have to deal with moving forward? Yeah.
Yes. So essentially just as that started to surface, like there's just weird things that I'd witnessed as a kid, like strange people that I would see. And when you're that young, you don't really know what's going on. It's just like you seek mom and dad for safety, and then everything that's happening around you, unless it hurts you, you're like, oh, okay, well this must be normal. Yeah.
How old did you really like starting to see all these people? Like how far
This
back
was
do you remember this?
I think like around like my late twos and around like mid threes, like in that
Yeah,
area.
and I was trying
Yeah.
to think back too, like how far can I push myself to think back on early memory? I think 3 was my earliest, like
Yeah.
farthest back
Yeah.
memory.
You're like, whoo.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to push that far. Yeah, and you maybe only like 2 memories from around there. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So, just like, just my mom hanging around like some shady folks. And,
yeah.
uh, like looking back, I'm like, oh my goodness, like what was that person doing there? And I think one of my, I don't know, I didn't know it was wrong, but it started like it was when I started to realize something was wrong. Was my mom was wanting to go to, it was either like Baltimore or Washington D.C.,
Okay.
and that was likely to get some drugs. She had a problem with heroin,
Oh
and
wow. Okay, so
yeah,
heavy,
yeah,
heavy drugs,
yeah,
not okay.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, and
And your dad knew at this time, or no? He
I
doesn't.
don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know if my dad knew at that
Okay.
time, but well, I guess to think about it, yeah, yeah, he did, because there was always like tension surrounding her like leaving, because she'd take the
Yeah.
car and be gone for a while, maybe
Oh,
like a couple
really?
days and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I just remember my mom, I was like, don't go. Like I was just crying, little 2-year-old or a 3-year-old just crying his eyes out, like wanting his mom to stay. I was like, please take me with you or
Yeah,
something. And
because you
she,
didn't
and
understand. You were like, "Well, where's
yeah,
she going now? Is she gonna come back?
yeah,
Why is she keep
yeah,
leaving?" Yeah. Totally.
exactly. So I was just like, can we at least get Slurpees, at the, like I want to get Slurpee because there's a 7-Eleven down from where we were living.
I actually
And
made like a Slurpee today. Now that you mention that, it's kind of like a Slurpee. So mine's all natural. So
yeah, not 7-Eleven Slurpees are not all natural.
I don't
So
even think it has real fruit, does it? Like
yeah, no, I'm pretty sure it's just it's sugar and
I
artificial
think so.
flavoring.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird looking back consuming those things. I'm like,
Oh
oh
my
my
god,
goodness.
I
But
know. I can't believe I actually ate that. But then I was a kid, so how much?
yeah, it's like I'm just like, oh my goodness, this is the most amazing thing ever.
Yeah.
But my mom, she's like, okay, like yeah, 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 and I think she's just saying that to like keep me from crying. And it was just sort of, it was really sad, like looking back on it. And what ended up happening was my mom left, and then I grabbed my brother and I proceeded to take my brother, which was probably like a mile or two away from my house at that age, to go to the 7-Eleven. And it's so weird thinking about it now, because if I
What
saw like a,
was your brother older?
no, my brother's 11 months younger than me. So
Oh, okay. You were
yeah,
just like, I'm
so
not going to the 7-Eleven.
yeah, I'm gonna go to the 7. We're gonna do this, and
That's
we're
cute.
gonna we're gonna get, we're
That's
gonna
cute.
get some Slurpees. And we, it's weird to think back though, because if I saw children that young like by themselves, I'd be freaking out. I'd be like, whoa, 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 like where, like what's going on, like why are you, where's your
Over
mom,
here.
where's your dad,
Yeah.
where's your
Yeah.
caretaker?
Yeah.
So we got to the 7-Eleven, and I'm just standing there like looking for my mom, and I'm all like sad and freaking out, and because she's not there. And police officer thankfully shows up, because anything could have happened.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he's just like, where's your parents? And I'm like, I don't know, like my mom was supposed to meet me here. And we end up being like put in the
Escorted
cop car
home.
and taken, escort home. It caused this whole fiasco. But that was kind of like the first time I really got acquainted with the disorder and chaos that just came from my mom's life. And uh, I don't want to give the impression that she was this terrible human being. Like
No,
she
she doesn't
was,
sound like it at all.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
not
she,
portraying that way at all. Yeah.
yeah. So she was really a loving and compassionate person. The problem was that she had this vice, and it took me a long time to really understand how problematic addiction of that caliber is. And it's like I probably like I'll struggle with caffeine addiction or something. It's just It's just this annoying, uncomfortable, experience to just, I'm not going to take that anymore. But to have something that's so like,
Potent, right?
it's just
I
yeah.
don't know personally, but I can
I
imagine.
I yeah, it's really challenging to like comprehend. But yeah, and there was instances like that that would happen throughout my childhood, where she was in and out. And she'd be gone. Maybe she'd be in like a jail for a number of years or something because of some, like
Really? So
her substance
even
abuse.
got
Yeah,
she even got put away for a little while.
yeah, she got put away, and it was just I was kind of used to. Although I didn't feel comfortable with the fact that my mom was always gone, and I really wanted her in my life, and
So
it just
did your dad like pretty much raise you guys? It was so
yeah,
it's you and your
yeah,
brother. Did you have any other
yeah.
siblings?
I had some older siblings, some half siblings,
Okay.
from my mom's side and my dad's side,
Okay.
and they were like yeah, they were just they were not as much in the picture. More so
Yeah.
like my half sister on my mom's side, but for my dad's side, they were a little bit more distant and everything, just
Okay.
because they were older, they had their own families and
Yeah, I
everything.
had stepbrothers when I was about 7, 8, 9. One passed away basically, and that just threw everything chaotic. But they were all older than me, so I can relate to that. And they didn't live with us ever, so it was just me as in the household. But yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
it's interesting having like that family dynamic, but yeah, it was unusual. Like with my dad took care of my brother and I, and people would always confuse him for our grandpa, and so like,
Oh,
is that your granddad? I'm like, no,
oh,
it's actually my dad.
God.
Um, and he
And then I guess that kind of threw in some like, well, what do you mean, my grandpa? Even
yeah,
it's confusing to a child. It's like,
it,
why are you asking if it's my grandpa?
yeah, exactly. And he was my dad, incredible father.
He
He
sounds
took us away
incredible.
from yeah, he
So,
took it to raise kids when when you're going into your 60s and 70s is just, I
and then
mean,
dealing with a wife that needs to find her path, needs to be sure
yeah,
for herself, and
yeah,
trying to support everything. Definitely.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Usually I think most people when they reach that age, they want to just really enjoy the fruits of their labor, and to really say, you know what, I'm going to start life over again, and just like let's raise kids and do the whole thing over again.
Yeah.
So he got us. He really tried to put a distance between my my mother and I, and just to protect us and stuff because
Yeah.
of
I understand.
the chaos that she brought in. And when she would come and like live with my family, it would just there'd be just it just erupt into issues, and people yelling. And I remember I'd be running outside crying my eyes out, like, God, please just bring my just like fix this. I want everybody to get along. And
You were still really
we
young. Like, we're not even talking about like teenage years yet, right?
no, yeah. So I was probably around the age of like 9, close to 9, when maybe 8, where my dad, he was just sick of the cold weather because we were living out in West Virginia at that time.
Oh,
And
beautiful, but yeah, I
yeah,
used to have a
yeah,
cabin there, so beautiful, but yeah, it's cold, and you're pretty much on your own when you're in West Virginia.
yeah, yeah,
It's like you better have a chainsaw and know some skills before you get
yeah,
to West Virginia.
exactly.
So yeah.
Yeah, so that was just a whole thing, and he was over it. So I remember one day just coming home, and my dad had everything packed up in a moving truck. It just shocked me
Oh
because there
yeah.
was
Like, wait,
there's
what's
no
going on? Yeah.
there's no warning. I'm pretty sure he expressed the fact, I want to live somewhere nicer. This is, forget this place. And I'm like, all right, Dad, okay.
Yeah,
And then
you're
one day it's like,
then you're doing it. You're doing it.
like we're really doing it.
Yeah.
And so we moved down to Florida, and we're doing that whole thing, getting adjusted to a new way of life. And my mom ends up getting back into the picture. She's living with us. One day I'm coming home from a private school that my dad had enrolled me in, and I somebody comes up and they're like, your dad's in jail. I'm like, what are you talking
What?
about? Yeah. So I'm young, still young. And, they're like, your dad's new. I'm like, what are you talking about? And, I was like, well, this whole thing, apparently my dad had gotten in a fight with my mom, and somebody called
Oh,
the police, and yeah, just
wow.
bad, bad, bad. And so
Oh,
this girl thought like I would be happy about that. I was not. I bursted into tears, ran to my home, and um, my like that night, my mom ends up getting alcohol poisoning because she's trying to deal with the consequences of whatever decisions and choices had taken place over the course of that day.
yeah.
One says this thing, the other says that thing,
Oh, yeah.
and in the end it didn't really matter because it just like the consequences to however these choices unraveled themselves ended up leading me into foster care for the next 3 years. And
Because
it
she passed
was
away. Did she pass away?
she
Or
didn't pass away.
okay.
um like she was still she was fine, but she
Yeah.
was in the hospital, and my dad was just like in jail for like the next few days. And we
Yeah.
ended up having social workers come in. They were saying, okay, well, where's your parents, what's going on? And
Okay.
I am put lying as the best I ever could lie in my life.
Or are you like, everything's fine. Everything's fine. We're
I was like,
good. I want my parents
I was
back.
like,
Thank
what do you?
you.
Yeah,
We're
what are you
good.
talking about? I was like, everything's fine. Like nobody does anything bad. You need to
You're
go
like trying to
away.
protect your parents because you're just like, oh my God, my parents are together. We're good. We're supposed to be
Yeah,
doing this thing. And
yeah, yeah, exactly. And so that just they end up all right. Well, pack some clothes into some bags and everything. We're gonna go. And that
wow.
was a life altering moment for
So, well,
me.
how
And
old
I
were you
just
when that happened?
it was around like 9, like probably it's like nine and
Okay.
a half or something. And that it all happened in a fairly short span of time, from moving to Florida to
Wow.
ending up in foster care. And at first I was in this like I'd say middle class Caucasian household, so it was fairly similar to what I had been experiencing and everything. And um then they just had too many kids. They had like 5 toddlers running around. They were doing their thing, and
Okay.
then they were just like, okay, you got to go to a different home. So we
Wow.
end up in a in this home with this wonderful Puerto Rican couple. They're great, but as kids and just not being like a completely different culture, I was, now I was like away from my parents. I was also culture shocked. I felt as it was just really difficult to adapt and
Yeah.
to fit into this new experience. And I was every night just praying like, God, please bring my
Parents
mom and
back.
my dad back. Like, please take me out of this place.
And your brother's with
Just
you at this time,
yeah,
right? Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
At
I'm
least at
just
least you had a sibling. I can't
yeah,
imagine like
yeah.
that, yeah, being in that situation and just like trying to go from one foster family to another. And you guys are still close. You
Oh
and your
yeah, yeah.
brother.
Me and my
That's
brother are great.
good.
We're not only siblings, we're amazing friends. I love my brother. He's an amazing human being.
That's great.
Um, yeah, yeah. So he's a firefighter and everything. So he saves people's lives, and
Cool.
and that's
Very
just
cool.
incredible.
Yeah, that is.
But
So yeah, so you
yeah,
ended up at this other foster home, and you said you were in, I guess you could call the system for 3 years. So you lived
yeah.
with this other family for 3 years, or were you put in
It
somewhere
was
else?
so it was a short period of time.
Uh-huh.
Like it was I wouldn't. It was heading towards a year because I remember going like about the 6 month mark of being there, and I was praying just every day. And I remember one night I'm like looking out the window, crying my eyes out, and I just feel like something snapped in me, and I just felt like this dark cloud fell over me. It was the first time I ever remember experiencing depression. And like I experienced a lot of anxiety and stuff
Yeah.
just because of the threatening nature of my life. Like there's a lot of uncertainty, but this is the first time I had lost this sense of hope, and I was trying to understand.
Oh, Chris, your
You
video
still
went
hear?
out. Yeah,
You
you're
still
good.
hear me? All right.
Yeah, I did. Okay.
Um, so just with all this uncertainty that was happening with my life, and I like I felt my hope just break. Like I was just like something, like nobody's coming back. Like God's not listening to me. My parents aren't coming back for me. And at this point, I got to this place where I thought to myself, like, I must have done something wrong. There's something wrong with me. And
That can eat
that,
you up. That can eat you up. Yeah.
yeah, I carried that with me. It took me 18 years to really come to grips and overcome that persistent depression. So it was not I'm
How
grateful
long
for
ago?
the,
How long was it? Did it take you? Did you
it
say
took
that?
me, it took me 18 years.
Okay, just wanted to make that clear for everyone. It takes
Yeah.
time, especially when you put something in your, like, you accept that as your truth, should I say.
Yeah.
You accept that as the way things played out in your future because of that. And it's
Hmm.
hard to recognize it too after years go by because other things happen in life.
Yeah.
So I imagine, 18 years later, what changed? Like,
Well, I would say that eventually I got to this point where there's a couple key things I want to touch on before I
okay, yeah,
pop out of this and move on.
let's go back to the so you were in the foster care for 3 years,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah,
I
so what
moved.
happened to your dad and stuff? Uh,
So dad's working on getting us out.
okay.
I'm uh, just go, like we ended up getting moved from one home to another. Eventually we actually lived with my mom for a little bit, and with our mother, and she was dating another guy. And long story short, I had a friend over one day, and he wakes me up. It's like, this guy just hit your mom. And yeah, I know. It's just like constant barrage of just insanity. And so I get up, muster up all the strength I can as a 11 or 12-year-old child, and push this man out of my house and lock the door. And
You were a very good kid. You're very,
I'm
very
like, I gotta protect my mom.
yeah,
And
that's good.
he kicks through the door, and I just felt powerless, so powerless. And I remember talking with my mom the next day,
Yeah.
and I was like, I gotta call the social worker because
You
I'm
were
not
very
gonna let.
smart
And
at age
yeah,
11, and I wish had that smart back then too, because things happened in my life that were very similar to that,
mhm,
and I wish I knew things then than I did now. So yeah,
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 yeah. It's just
it's hard. It's hard,
yeah.
especially because as a child, especially it's hard going through that dynamic because you want to be strong for everyone,
Hmm.
but you do feel powerless because people are stronger,
Yeah.
especially at that age. But then you were like, "Is it my position? Did you like maybe I'm missing something? Did you ever ask
Yeah.
yourself that? Like,
Just by I'd say like the grace of God, I got set up for that,
yeah,
to act out in that way, because my dad had a couple strokes,
okay,
like when we were living with him before. And I remember my sister-in-law, she's like, she called, and she's like, Chris, like, why didn't you call the hospital? Because I was just like, my dad's sick, he's in bed. I didn't know. I don't, I'm not a medic. I don't have,
yeah,
any
yeah,
knowledge
yeah,
about that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
And so I just knew that if something's wrong, you need to call somebody.
yeah.
Like, you need to call. And that's what I did. I called the people who helped my mom, and they ended up splitting us, like putting a restraining order between this guy and my family. And we go to this other house to stay. And my mom says, I have to call some friends. I'm going to go down to the gas station. I'll be back later. And she didn't come back.
Wow.
And yeah. And
Wow.
she, she ran probably out of a place of fear and pain. I couldn't, it's really hard to step into that and to see the way that she probably saw that.
Yeah, because you don't know
But
what was going through her mind or anything what she was dealing with either. I mean, as much
yeah,
as we like to relate, you just can't see the dynamic.
yeah,
But yeah. So
yeah. So
did you get to know her later? Like just curious
I,
here. Yeah.
well, I had, this is, this will fast forward a little bit, but I probably had about 4 times where I came into contact with her after
Okay.
that happened.
Later. Okay.
Yeah, I ended up, like that event's what really tipped me over the edge. Like I went from depressed to like suicidally depressed. It ended up,
And then we're
bringing me
talking
to a
about like
place.
11, 12, right? At this point.
Yeah,
Because she didn't come
yeah,
back. She was like, I needed to go to the gas station,
yeah.
and you just protected her, basically. You
Hmm.
called services, so like, hey, this is going on. My mom's getting beat up, and then she just ups and disappears. Yeah, I can
Yeah, yeah,
imagine, because you're like, wow, I finally got my mom back at least.
yeah. And
And
it was, yeah, I was like, yeah, I just wanted to be with my mom and my dad, and at least I have my mom, and it just wasn't happening. Like it just wasn't happening. And I just felt so defeated. And I, like, I was in, I want to make sure I communicate this clearly, because some people
okay,
get this, they get confused when it comes to, like the idea of suicide. Like, why would anybody ever want to kill themselves? And I can't speak for everybody who's struggled with being suicidal, but I can say this for me. The times in my life, especially where I got to the point where I was actually making an attempt, uh, it was because I was in so much emotional pain that I just wanted relief. And some people, they may turn to drugs, they may turn to other forms of addiction or ways of numbing the pain. I was, thankfully, by witnessing what my mom had gone through, unwilling to go down that route, because I saw the damage that it had done, and I had to bear the weight of my own experience. And as I was trying to process this, it was like that nagging voice, like, well, you know what, this might be a way to relieve your pain. And thankfully, after a while, it's probably like 3 or 4 years ago, where I really got to the point, from a perspective place, a philosophical place, and just a way of viewing things, that I was able to just completely put that to rest and not have to deal with that sort of reasoning any longer.
and I like
But
to
yeah,
throw in here, Chris, that a very good book to uncover that voice, that voice that can really tear you down. Um, I see a lot of people ask like questions on Facebook primarily, like what book changed your life, or what book what would you recommend as the first book people read in personal development? And I always had to say it would be Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. And the
mm,
reason why is because if you read it, great, that's wonderful. If you haven't, you need the book. I believe there's free copies now out there. You can go to Audible, get it for free as your first book. I just want to put that in there. But Outwitting the Devil wasn't published until many years after Napoleon Hill died. And if you know Napoleon Hill's work, one of his most famous is I can't even think of the name right now. The one about wealth and money. I can't even think of it right now. But either way, I love all his books. But in that book was his final book. And it was, like I said, released many years later, just because the dynamics on dealing with talking about the devil. And
mhm,
at that period, his family was afraid on the consequences it would bring into their lives. But the basis of the book is when it's a conversation between Napoleon Hill and the devil. And during his conversation with the devil, you realize he's talking to himself. And his self, that inner voice, is the devil. It's the thing that is the living hell, is the depression, is the that voice that wants to put you and leave you in hell. And that is the toxicity in people, that even when you put out negativity and you want to bring other people down, you are basically doing the devil's work. And it's a very good conversation, because it makes one thing, at least for me, like I said, everybody might take it differently. It really separates you from that other voice and gives light onto, a different way of looking at it. And when you can separate yourself from that voice and look at it into that perspective, at least for me, it brought a lot of peace. It brought a lot of this could be, because just as much as we can say life is like heaven, we have that other voice too, that subconscious that's always looking out for us, that's always there for us, that always wants to give us the good things that we just kind of just never listen to in the, in certain situations. But it's the one that's the devil that we listen to majority of the time. And when you separate yourself from that, from my own personal experience and for others, I believe it would help, especially in depression. I can say that I think I would have been more of the depression side of things during my struggles. More of mine have come from anxiety of, what could happen. I've had my kids in my early 20s. So a lot of my thing was, if I were to fall into depression or drugs or whatever, how would that affect their lives? And I've always they have been my staple, basically. Like, I can't be that person. I can't be that person for them. And then that's given me strength moving forward. But yeah, so you took a while to get through that, and I'm glad you did. And I can just imagine the struggle, because like you said, all the stuff that you told us so far, and then I could see why it took that long, especially because you dealt with so much at that point. How many homes were you through at that point? Like 5 at least, I think.
Definitely at least 5 is probably like nearing 10, if not over 10.
Yeah. So what happened once your mom was out of the picture?
Well, eventually, I found myself in a group home, and then my dad was able to get custody of us again, and we ended up moving back to West Virginia. At this point, Florida became a really, really, really bad taste in everybody's mouth.
yeah. Well, right when you moved there, right? Yeah. You can laugh at it now. You can laugh.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of stuff I look back, and in a very funny way, especially when I'm doing like gratitude journaling, I find that I'm most thankful for some of the most difficult things I've ever experienced in my life, because they've produced the greatest amount of good. And for me, the way that I see it is, this is pain in the world. This is the result of people's decisions. There's some of it maybe not so much in my younger years, but more so in my later, the result of my decision making. And then there's a lot of things that were the result of the choices that other people made that affected my life. And I can either allow that to continue out into the world. I think you've heard, hurting people tend to hurt other people. Or I can say, what, the buck stops here. Like, I am going to take this and I am going to transform it into something that can be used for healing, something that can be used to help, inspire, encourage, and motivate other people and empower them. And that's why one of the most powerful things that ever came to me is like an epiphany in a way that hopefully I'll get to share a little bit later, but is you had to be wounded deeply to heal the wounded deeply. And it was just like a purpose
I
statement.
totally agree with that. And yeah, I totally agree with that. I remember a lady I talked to probably last week or the week before. And she was just like, she said she went through this period that, she didn't feel qualified to be a life coach, to be somebody that people can come to with their businesses and things. Cause she's been in business since like she was 18 or something. And, but she still had that nagging feeling that she couldn't get the knowledge out there because she didn't have credentials. She didn't go to the right schools. She didn't have all that. But you don't need that. If you went through the life experience, that is actually more powerful than those credentials can ever give you, because you are on a personal level with the people that has also gone through that journey. So yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, especially in a case like hers, to be able to move through there and to get to the other side, it says some like something. There's something that you did that works. And
Yeah.
while I'm certainly not opposed to education,
Oh
I
no,
think we should.
totally not.
Well,
Yeah.
but you don't doesn't necessarily mean that you need to have some sort of accredited institution. It's a different case if you're a lawyer or a doctor.
Yeah, of
Please do
course.
that for us.
Yes,
But
yes.
but we're all living life, and you can tell when somebody's doing something right. They typically reap the reward of making wise and good choices, whereas somebody is not finding that experience and they're like not doing so well. Then it's like, hey, person who's doing good, like, how can you help me to go from where I'm at to where you are?
Yeah, definitely. You don't want to go to the ones that are doing too. You're right. That's for
Yeah,
like life advice. Maybe you want to listen to them like Jim Rohn used to say. You don't ever ask the people that failed in life, to come speak to your engagements, right? You ask the people. Let me shut this off. Hold on. Okay. All right. Sorry. I had a little interruption there.
no,
So you never ask the people like, the failures in life to get up on stage and do public speaking, right? You always ask the people that are successful. But he said, but you can learn so much from the people that, had failures in life and not happy where they're at, because then you could take where they feel they messed up and where they made mistakes and turn it around for your own life moving forward.
yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely.
there's
Yeah,
so
I mean,
different ways to look at it, definitely.
yeah, yeah,
So
definitely. I agree with that. I mean, it's you. We have an opportunity to observe everything that's going on, and um, it's just feedback. It's information that you can use to learn and grow, and hopefully take that and impart it onto others, so that way they don't have to go through the same things that you did or the people you're learning from did. Um, to go back to what I was saying, it was like I went through, like, when I got out of foster care, I ended up going through I don't know, it's like schooling was kind of fine for the most part, like everything was somewhat normal, but I had a lot of trouble with my emotions and my emotional regulation, just because I would find myself struggling with what you call like parataxic distortions, which is a fancy way of saying triggers that don't have a necessarily like a known cause. Like
okay.
it's or like it's kind of like smelling. You smell something and you have no idea where that came from, but for some reason it just
It all
puts you
comes
into a
back.
state.
Yeah.
Yeah, it puts you into a place of like a funky, a bad mood. It's like you see somebody and you just feel bad being around them, but you can't really put your finger on where that came from.
I know what you
And
mean. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's just, and then of course there was triggers from the trauma that I had experienced as a child where, I was just like, I don't know what to do with this. I'm just hurting. Like, please help me. And I ended up getting into the military, getting out of the military because of depression. I got medically discharged. And it was when I went to school. I went to school to do pastoring because like a really devout Christian, and I wanted to. I felt like helping people through my faith,
Yeah.
and
Wonderful.
yeah, and it was important to me. I was just having a difficult time though, because it's like, for one, while I highly value like the Bible and scripture and stuff, it's not a medical journal. There's certainly there's things that are outside of its scope. I believe that it answers like really important things in life, but there's things that are outside of that that are true and important, and we should check out. And so when I was going through college, I remember going on Christmas break. I was driving home on Christmas Eve. I get a call, and it was my aunt. She's like, "When you get home, your sister needs to talk to you." And I was like, "Okay, well, that's weird. Like, that's a weird thing to
Okay,
call me
well,
about."
my kid, she just called me. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. What ends up happening is I get home or to my sister's house, and she tells me like, mom passed away. And I it hit me so hard because like all of those abandonment issues, all the like the pain of not having really had the relationship that I wanted with my mom. And
There was no closure, really.
y-
Yeah.
well, there was
There
some,
was? Okay.
thankfully, yeah, because about a month before she passed away on Thanksgiving, she ended up reaching out to me through Facebook,
Okay.
and I was able to go through this starting process of like reconciliation. And I
Yeah.
wrote her a
Yeah.
letter telling her like, "Look, mom, I love you and I forgive you for," I was like, "This is how you've hurt me, and I want you to know I forgive you for this."
Yeah. Yeah.
And but just I got like like blindsided by this crazy thing that just all of a sudden happened out of nowhere. And I was it it just spun me out, and I got to this point. I was like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Try to take my life, and thankfully I couldn't. I just I was unable. I tried to drink a bunch of sleeping medication, and thankfully I couldn't stomach it. And I just felt so broken because here I am at this. I was at Liberty University, and I'm surrounded by all these people, hope filled, and yeah, it's like you don't want. It's not. There's not many places that I know of, at least, where you're walking around on campus and somebody walks up to you like, "Hey, can I pray for you today?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, please."
That's
So,
awesome, actually. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That's
yeah.
cool.
So it was just really encouraging. And but like here I am like broken, and I was like, I don't get this, like something's wrong, and I'm so tired of feeling this way. It's like I feel like no matter how much I do, nothing's getting better, and I'm hurting constantly. And for the first time, really, I asked myself, why is this happening? And it was when I started asking why that I started looking for the answers. And that's what led me into studying like psychology and human behavior, and the biology and all this just different stuff about the
Yeah.
human experience, consciousness. And I began to understand like what was going on and why I was experiencing the things that I was experiencing. And I started finding solutions for those problems. And that, I was like, I just made it my mission to surround my depression on every single side through nutrition, exercise, like meditation, journaling, everything. And just I started like beating away at it until the walls started to slowly crack and
Yeah.
crumble and eventually break down. It took, from that starting point, I would say it was a good like 5 or 6 years, because before I didn't know what the issue was. I just was feeling these feelings and not like, you don't know what you
Questioning
don't
it.
know.
No, you
Yeah.
don't. Which is, I can relate. So, because, yeah, you get to that point that's like, why am I feeling this way? How can I improve it? What am I doing that's keeps taking me back? And you said it was like over and over and over and over, because it was even the way that you got discharged from was it Air Force or
Yeah,
what?
yeah, the Air Force.
Yeah, I see your picture up there. He's got like this nice little like wall of fame behind him. So yeah. So you're like, man, I'm trying to better my life. I'm trying to keep doing this, and I keep getting to this point that I feel so depressed that I just want to just be done. And that's that aha moment, I like to say. That's that like the real self-realization. And it's one of the things that I think even as kids should be taught, this should be like, we should be showing kids that, sharing, not showing, sharing like more of this way of thinking.
Yeah.
There's so much that we don't know about the mind and what
Hmm.
influences us, what influences the way we think. And a lot of it, I did like that you mentioned that the Bible does talk a lot about it. I wasn't brought up reading the Bible or anything, but I was, of course, influenced probably like many of us in the United States to be experienced in church and, go with friends or family or whatever, which I've done plenty of that.
Hmm.
Um, of course, later in life, religion fascinates me in general, and because it was never fully in my life, it was kind of just
Hmm.
there in a way, just through friends. But then looking at it now, knowing what I know, like from inner work, from changing my mindset and things like that, there is a lot of things in not only the Bible but other writings in religion that touches on a lot of this. And
Yeah.
it's very fascinating. It's kind of there, but we don't
Hmm.
recognize it until we've gone through that period.
Yeah, it's quite I would say it's a bit of an obsession of mine, is studying this and understanding the
Mine
different
too. Mine
perspectives.
too. Mine too. Yeah.
It's like one thing, religion seems to be the one of the dirty words in today's modern culture. People are like, ooh, I don't like that word. And it's like but when you break the word religion down, comes from the Latin root religare, which means to bind up or union with. And we're all very familiar with the Sanskrit word yoga, which means the same thing. So it's all about oneness with God. And they all have different opinions on how you accomplish that union with the
The
ultimate.
universe,
Yep.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
like to say, yeah. And for me, myself, just going through not quite depression, more of anxiety, like really debilitating anxiety, like can't get out of bed, can't like function, even though I'm trying to like, I want to be better, I wanted to do stuff. It was just not there in me for whatever
Yeah.
reason. And going through that, and for me, I relate God and the universe as that same way as I did as a kid, which I thought was totally wrong at the time. But
Hmm.
now talking to more people, I feel more comfortable, and at least in my own voice and the way I see the world,
Hmm.
where God is actually you. You are the connection just as much as
Hmm.
everyone else is,
Hmm.
because it's all the way you perceive the world. And then humans are just so unique in general, where we can actually analyze our thoughts and what we put out to other people, and we can influence somebody just by a word or a thought or an action. And so in that dynamic, you can look at it two ways. You can look at it, you're already in heaven. You are a part of the universe. You are a God.
Hmm.
You can relate that as like that inner voice, or you can just say that it's a universal thing. It's like air. It's there, and then when you realize that, I think, at least for me, like I said, this is my own opinion. Um, it makes you feel really humble too, because you're like, okay, well, I have the two choices, like we were talking a little earlier. I can either put good out in the world, or I could, put bad out the world, the negativity and the pain, and talk about like all that and how it affected me, and try to bring other people into that realm with me.
Hmm.
Um, so, I just think it's really fascinating too to study religion now, and or even philosophy. A lot of
Yeah.
it philosophy or the way one thinks. Now just looking at it differently. So
Yeah, it's definitely a really fascinating you just go down the rabbit hole. You just it really
yeah,
it's yeah, and there's so much there's different like just different ways in which like ways of perceiving and understanding everything that's like going on, what is consciousness, and it's just this like for me, I just kind of I'm processing everything and taking it in and doing my best to understand varying viewpoints and um, the way to communicate, to understand and to be understood.
yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah. It does.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
fulfilling
yeah.
that
So
connection. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, because I think it's a lot of people will blow up on each other without allowing another person to really speak and take time to understand their model of the world or their worldview. And even though I hold my own opinions and my beliefs, and I may disagree on things, I still want to give the person the chance to be heard and understood, because it's like that's what we all really want, is to be seen and heard.
that's true. Yeah, we
Yeah,
want to feel that human connection, which
yeah.
is important. I mean, we are social animals. Just at the end of the day, we can't, as much as we like to think differently, as long,
Yeah,
but we're all like, need a purpose,
yeah,
need that. So you do coaching too, right, Chris? Is that
yeah,
what you do?
yeah. I
Okay.
do, I do coaching. It's pretty much just the culmination and result of me taking all of these experiences that I've had, overcoming them. I wish we had more time. I would share
Right.
the. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So
There's
we'll break it down real fast. So, okay, I know that there was a period also you had here that you did some acting and modeling. Do you do that
yeah.
now?
I do occasionally. I'll do some modeling. I still get approached for it, which is great because it's fun. I like it, and you
Yeah.
get some cool pictures, and
Oh
you get paid for
yeah.
it. So
Cool
win.
bitch. Definitely. Yeah. Dress me out. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, it's a win-win.
Yeah.
And then as far as acting, not really.
Okay.
I just I stepped out of that world just because I got a really well, for one, I got clear on my purpose. Like the reason I did it was because I wanted a light on me so I could take that light and shine it on other people who are less fortunate. And I was like, you know what? I don't need to
Going
do
back
that. I
to
can,
do that. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
I can just help people, which is what I'm doing now. But yeah, I had a pretty rough experience with, I guess you could say, like the underbelly of Hollywood,
Okay.
and that like I that really set me off probably like 3 years ago, where I pretty much almost completely broke to pieces, and I lost myself, just like getting into um,
Bad
I
people.
almost, yeah, just got bad people, partying, drugs,
Wow.
and just getting myself into a place, not anything like what my mom was doing, but
Yeah.
just, typical stuff that you would expect people to do if they were going clubbing or partying. And it definitely wasn't helpful for somebody who was still struggling with depression and anxiety and things of that nature. And
I'm glad you
by
recognized it and it's like, this isn't the path for me. I'm gonna back it up. So yeah.
yeah, 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 it was, yeah, it was no, it definitely wasn't helpful. And um, essentially, I had this situation where I got hospitalized a couple times,
Oh man.
but it was not like due to physical health. It was due to mental health, and I just needed I needed better people in my life. I needed to make healthier choices, and when I came out the other side of that, I had lost pretty much like everything. Like I owed the bank like $1,000. I had no job, no money. I had a broken heart. I just felt so wrecked, and it really was the perfect storm to test everything that I had learned up to that point. It's like, okay, well, here you are. You've been talking about this meditation and you know self-development. Stoicism is a philosophy that I
Yeah.
absolutely adore.
Yeah,
Yeah,
more I want to look into that. We'll have to talk about that one because
yeah,
it's something a term that I just ran across actually. So I'm like, that's interesting.
yeah,
We're gonna have to have a
yeah,
conversation about that one. So yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, so yeah, that's just over the course of these past 3 years, like I just started this process of, I don't know, like recreating myself, and it from that I really cracked the whole depression thing completely to pieces, in the sense that it's yeah, I deal with low moods occasionally, but it's
yeah.
not debilitating. It's not an experience that lasts for years.
Good.
I'll catch myself and I'm able to put myself into the state that I need to be to move forward in life. And
So
it's just such a
what's your quickest way to just turn it around? I know mine, so I'm just curious what other people's is. What's the quick fix? Like, I just need this right now so I can get through this.
well, I think that the quickest fix, number one, you've got to recognize immediately when you're going through it. Like awareness is key. So when I start noticing I'm getting that downward spiral motion, I pause myself and I immediately focus on the smallest possible things that I can do to help reverse that
Cycle.
that cycle and start spiraling back up. And I think that Tony Robbins really played a huge role in my life in this, when I read Awaken the Giant Within, and he talked about the emotional triad, which is what you focus on, the way you hold your body, and the language you're using. And I was just like, this is crazy. You can actually control your emotions. And it's not, I know people right now, probably somebody might be listening, they have depression, like, Chris, I try, and I get it. I really do, because it's this weird, all consuming state. However, it's patterned. And that means that you keep doing the same thing over again. It ends up becoming natural, like your body stays in it because it's easy to do, or it's a known, it's safe. Even though we know it's like, it doesn't feel
Yeah.
good, it's like, this is safe, I survive here.
Yeah.
And so you've got
I
to
know what you're talking
create a
about there.
new
Yeah.
yeah you got to
Dynamic.
create an yeah you got to create a new thing. And it takes time, it takes patience. I'm sure that if I knew the stuff I knew now, and went back to the moment that I started feeling depressed, I probably could have broke it like significantly, like I don't know, a 20th of what I had caught at the time, like, that I went through. But I'm grateful also that I went through the things that I did, because it makes me appreciate where I'm at so much more now.
Yeah. And just to remind you guys, 14 years here, 14 years. It is a process.
Well,
You
18.
18,
So
excuse me. Yeah.
yeah,
18 years
yeah,
it took Chris to, find himself, find his strength and move past the depression and stop blaming himself,
yeah,
Chris, and
yeah,
you would look at Chris here. If you want to, see this video, you go over to amena.media and check out this episode number 24. But you would never know it looking at Chris. I would never see this story in you if you just came up to me and just started talking. I would never see that you went through this and that you dealt with this for so long. Just seeing what you do now on your Facebook and your talks on personal development. You would never see this. I would never see this in you. You're just look so cheery and happy and just happy to be alive and give back. And I imagine a lot of that came from that past. It was now you're just grateful, I would imagine, for life and you want to give that energy out, and give hope back. And this is a
Yeah,
perfect show for you. The message
you
of
got it.
stories of struggle to success. So yeah.
Yeah.
So Chris, we're running out of time, unfortunately. Where would people come to connect with you?
So if you go on, let's see, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, it's going to be like at I am
Okay.
Chris Good, and that's good with an E at the end.
Uh-huh.
Feel free to follow me on any of those places. I also have iamchrisgood.com. It's a
Okay.
blog of mine. So, if you like the things I write, it's a good place to check me out. But that's pretty much it. And if any of your listeners, or I'll offer like just a complimentary session to any of the people who would really want that. Just mention that you listen to this podcast, and I'll
One Up Podcast.
say you
One Up
or
Podcast spelled
yeah.
out, and you can look it up by just going to One Up Podcast. You can put on my name. My name comes up. Amena, K-A-M-E-N-A-K-Y. It'll also come up. So just so you guys know. Yeah. So yeah, just
Awesome.
mention it, and mention the show, mention the YouTube channel, Amena.media, and Chris will do a session with you and see where you're at, and see how we can help you guys. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you for being a part of the live here. Thank you for the people that subscribe on the YouTube and on the podcast. We appreciate all of your just being here, and share the message. These messages of hope from struggle to success are developed for you guys to share the message, to bring more hope and positivity to the world. So please pass on the message. Please tell your friends and family about the channel and what we're doing here to change the world. Thank you again, Chris. And I look forward to talking to you about the stoicism now.
Yeah.
Now it's going to be on my mind. Now I'm going to be like, all right, Chris, what do you do that I don't know? So
yeah. Well, thank you so much for the privilege and the opportunity, Amena. And I really hope that this particular podcast just blesses the listeners and the viewers.
Yeah, thank you. Any final words you like to say here before we close out? Maybe a quote.
I think the little thing that's really I dropped some things throughout this throughout this session, and I think the most important thing is self-love, and the more you get your life in order, the more you're able to stand on a solid foundation and help people to get their lives in order. And it's not narcissism. You're not helping yourself to the detriment of other people, and it's not some sort of false like savior complex where you save everybody else and sacrifice yourself. It's really the better you take care of yourself, the greater you're able to love everyone else. That's it.
Totally agree with that. Thank you again, Chris. And you have a good day. We'll leave it
Thank
at
you.
that. Take care.
All right.
Talk to you later.
You too.